So today we're going to be looking at this next set of promises. So once we hit these Psalms, which we're hitting now, there's so many which we're going to be looking at. There's just going to be a few days where we're going to look at different Psalms and these promises of Christmas. But today, let's start at the beginning of the Psalms with Psalm 2, but really we're going to be looking a bit at Psalm 1 and 2. But let me just read Psalm 2 and I'll just get a chunk of it from verse 4 to verse 8. So, Psalm 2. The one enthroned in heaven laughs. The Lord scoffs at them. He rebukes them in his anger and terrifies them in his wrath, saying, I have installed my king on Zion, my holy mountain. I will proclaim the Lord's decree. He said to me, you are my son. Today I have become your father. Ask me, and I will make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession. Now, this Jesus character, which we're looking at Christmas, and this miracle birth, this fantastic birth of Jesus, is, of course, so unbelievable in all the things that it's achieving and doing. It's almost indescribable. And that's why there's so many different promises, different aspects, different things that Christmas is doing, this birth of Jesus is doing. Now, one of the ones here, which we'll just look at for today, is obviously that verse 7. I will proclaim the Lord's decree. He said to me, you are my son. Today I have become your father. Now, this aspect of Jesus is something that John kind of touches on. And it's this amazing aspect where Jesus is God's own son forever and ever. And in Revelations, he talks about he is the Alpha and the Omega. And John talks about how Jesus was God's own son since the beginning of the world and beyond. And then at the end of the world and beyond, Jesus is still God's own son. You are my son. Jesus is that. But in this kind of timeline of Jesus being God's son, it's like there's a moment. Today I have become your father. It's as if Jesus, being God's own son, has this particular moment when, as if that's doubly true, where it's like he is God's own son, but there's a moment where he feels that, like in some new way. He feels this Son of God aspect and the Father being like a father to him in some new way. Now that is this amazing part of Christmas where Jesus, who is God's own son, has this moment where he kind of goes through this feeling again, this moment of being God's own son in a baby and having the Father as his father personally. Now, this moment is really what we humans experience all the time, where we have this moment of feeling a connection to our parents, and Jesus kind of goes through that in this birth. On Christmas, Jesus, who is eternally God's own son, has a moment where he has this human experience of feeling a connection to his Father. Now, we can't explain it, and it's almost indescribable just how amazing and how magical this is. But somehow, this is Christmas. There is this moment of when Jesus experiences that. And so anyway, let's get excited about this Christmas where you are my son. Jesus is God's own son, but he has this birth where it's like he goes through this whole new experience of being God's own son. So let's get excited about that this Christmas.